Well, Happy New Year and welcome to FPA Live, where we are having conversations with people who are shaping the financial planning profession. I'm Ben Lewis, the Chief Communications Officer at the Financial Planning Association, and I'm delighted to host today's conversation where we're going to get to know, quote, the guy that can make the Disney service concepts work outside of Disney. Louie Gravance is a customer experience consultant who, from 1987 to 2014, enjoyed a distinguished career with Disney theme parks, designing everything from live entertainment experiences to customer service training programs through the Disney Institute in Orlando, Florida. Now, as a consultant, customer service speaker, and corporate culture guru, who has designed multi-million-dollar service campaigns for companies like ING Financial, Choice Hotels, Nikon, among others, he will now add closing keynote speaker to his list of accomplishments because Louie will close out FPA Retreat 2024 in Tucson, Arizona on May 9th. Louie, thank you for joining me today on FPA Live.
First of all, it's my pleasure, and what a gracious introduction. Thank you.
Hey, I'm trying. So I want to thank all of you who are also joining us today. I want to encourage anyone with a question to go ahead and post it. And if we have time, we will address it. So Louie, on behalf of FPA, I want to thank you for agreeing to be part of FPA Retreat in May. I know we're all excited to hear from you about who you are and how we can all build an outstanding customer service experience. To kind of kick things off, I already mentioned some of your background. It's quite remarkable. Can you share a little bit more with our audience about the experience, about your experience, and why you've been credited with changing the consciousness of business in America?
That's a great title, isn't it? So I think it's important
I love it.
to note that my career path is like a lot of folks that I meet in the financial planning industry, which is not that there was a clear trajectory that you took one class, then another class, then I meet all kinds of people who've had unusual trajectories as myself. I was a child actor until I was too hairy to be one, which was a long time. I played a teenager for a ridiculously long time on television until I got too old to do that. And I lost everything, and I got a job as a waiter, and usually you get a job as a waiter and then you get on TV. My plan was reversed. This is where I learned about the powers. This is where I started to learn about how service is performative and transformative in time. Just by having that waiter job, I learned how, again, performative and transformative it was. And I don't want to get into too much because we're going to talk about that at the meeting. But suddenly I find myself working at Disney as an entertainer, and then I find myself in training and development, and then I find myself at the Disney University in charge of the onboarding of tens of thousands of employees, and then writing business, and then getting headhunted Bank of America to recreate the Disney training program. And I remember thinking to myself, on paper, I have no business being here. I have no college, I have a reading disability, and but like many of the people I'm speaking to at your meeting, I got to that position one service moment at a time. And this is my message to others now, is that exceeding a client's expectations is not a one-way experience. It's not a one-way proposition. Every time we exceed the expectations of a client, we are building a strength. Whether it's for the company, a personal strength that we can't even measure at that moment. Every single transaction, we're building a strength that is transforming the relationship our company and transforming our ability to perform not just in the job we have or the task we have, but anywhere we want to go. And that's why I wrote the book called Service is a Superpower, not just because I thought it was a catchy title, but because service is a superpower. And we have a backward way of thinking about service. in many industries. We think that service we give away. We don't think of service as an investment or a self, and it is. It's absolutely. We are never out of the transfiguration. We're never out of transaction, and we are transitioning as our company
Mhm.
is simultaneously. I'm
So,
sorry that
kind of on
just
this,
zoom in a lot.
oh no, this is all great. So on May 9th at retreat, your presentation that you're going to close out the event, you are the anchor. You're the one who's going to leave everybody on a high. Is called "There's No Business But Show Business." Now, in the presentation, you're going to focus on the power of narrative. You've already mentioned the word narrative, but you're going to focus on the power of narrative. Can you talk about narrative and why it's so important?
Well, that's ever changing. In the old days, the way we would bring a client onto narrative was come be a part of our brand.
Hmm.
Come be a part of, whether it was the Pepsi generation or the Disney family, it was come be a part of our brand. Well, what we've learned is no longer want to be co-stars in our show. That they want the brands and the services they use to act backdrop and up for their show, for their narrative. How many of us now are personal publishers on social media? This is true, and I want to say on stage and off stage. What you mentioned is my 7 secrets for consistently creating wow moments. You mentioned never forgetting that there's no business but show business, and to that
Hmm.
end, you never want to let the client see what it looks like backstage. I have seen Mickey Mouse's head on the floor. Once you've seen Mickey Mouse's head on the floor, it takes an extra effort. The eyes of the client always have to do is find ways of seeing the show through the eyes of a client. And what I would ask you is what is the equivalent in your office of seeing Mickey Mouse's head on the floor? What, because you got one. And then, you brought me to the third one, which you did as you introduced me. You know what you did? You did things you didn't have to do. You didn't just read the bio that was provided for you. You did some research. You
Hmm.
massaged you did things you didn't have to do. You demonstrate. The fourth thing is
Yeah.
remembering that our clients should, when possible, have most of the dialogue in the scene. That's a ridiculous thing for a public speaker to say, but when we are having transactions with our clients, it's best. And one of the ways we can measure that experience are they having at least as much dialogue in the scene? And then the next thing is remember, you don't have to like them to delight them. You don't have to like them to delight them. That goes for your coworkers as well. It is impossible to bring out the best in a coworker and not build that same strength. And I've found that in not just in financial planning offices, but it's very common for a small group of people to find the weak deer to prey on to feel stronger.
Hmm.
And then you take all of these things, Ben, and you put them together and you create the illusion of spontaneity. The illusion. I'll give you an example. At Disney, people they'll go to Epcot, for example, and they're there. They've got the kids with them. It's an intense experience, and they park the car. They have a 12-hour experience. They come out and they have virtually no idea where they parked the car. This happens constantly. So here is the performance technique. A small little Pargo, it's almost like a long golf cart, rolls up with a parking attendant who says, "Hey, hey, 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 calm down. We always find the car, and we're going to find yours. Get in the little vehicle here. We're going to go find your car." And then the attendant asks a series of seemingly innocuous questions. So, was it fun? Did you have fun? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you have breakfast? Yeah, yeah. Did you stay today? They're asking these innocuous questions. But what they're really doing is they're isolating and identifying within a 15-minute period time you arrived. Because a high school kid came up with this in 1957. utilizing the parking lot in increments of 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the attendant could just say to the family, what time did you get here today to your car? But that would dissolve the illusion of great service. Think about how many times you might have to say the same thing to a client over and over and over, but yet you have to create that this experience is unique. And then the seventh is to never forget that great service will always serve the server first, just by virtue of rising to the occasion to be present. Just you're already building a strength. So what you already like to talk about service and what it looks like to the client, what it brings to the shareholders and the stakeholders. But we don't talk enough about what this is going to mean to you. If you show up for work and you are brave enough to rise to the occasion to exceed somebody's expectations, let's talk about what's in it for you, because we don't have real good measurement terms, skills. We don't a lexicon for measuring what service will provide for the person who provides it. We don't have and this, in all of my experience with financial institutions, and it's been a lot, the key problem in every financial institution I've ever worked with, and primarily how people in the financial industry speak of themselves. There are pernicious pieces of language collectively in the world of finance that are poisonous.
Right.
And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. And on this, Louie, so, look, customer service is everyone's job in a firm. It's in any business. Everybody has a role to play in it. For some of our members who have been around for 30, 40 years and been operating very profitable, successful financial planning firms, it's not just their job, it's everyone's job. How can the leaders of these financial planning practices and firms help train up, younger folks on their staff, anybody on their staff to be the best at delivering outstanding customer service to their clients?
As leaders, we're all going to have to stretch our ability to communicate the truth, which is that with newer generations, it's not going to be enough to say, well, to any generation, it's not going to be enough to say, I need you to do this for my organization. I need you to do this for me. I need you to do this even for the client. We have to rise to the occasion to massage our lexicon and our language so that as leaders, we know how to answer the question, what's in it for me? This is where we are the weakest. This is where we need to develop a new way of communicating. And you know what? The thing about this is we're only telling the truth. It's like what I would tell. I could have 100 custodial people in my class for their traditions training. I had to tell them the truth, which is that you're going to show up and this work is going to be tedious. And there are going to be days that you're not going to you're going to be backstage and you're not, okay, I got to go here. I'll tell you a secret, sir. When you're going to be a trainer and you're going to work for the Disney University, they put you through this secret boot camp, because they know that most of us will have come from entertainment or guest services or something. So they want us to know what it's like to list tasks. So without telling you what they're going to do, and you see, well, my gosh, I got 6 weeks of training? Really? Well, that's because a lot of it is spent doing the roughest tasks. They want you to know what it's like to clean garbage in Tomorrowland. They want you to know what it's like to clean the toilets in Fantasyland. They want you to know what it's like to see what a family can do with a pizza in a hotel room. They want you to know what this is. And I'm going to tell you, it is overwhelming. And so, and it had the desired effect, which is it wiped the smirk off our faces. We had to think, how can we tell these people the truth? I get to work the pizza rush at the backstage with a lady who never interfaced with a guest, but she's run this pizza thing for 19 years. And she takes me back there and it's clean. And there's music playing and it's not like cleaning the toilets. And I'm like, okay. And she says, okay, here this is. There's a conveyor belt that I'm going to operate with my feet. And this out on dough. And I'm going to be armed with a brush and a bucket of cheese. And she shows me how I'm going to put the tomato sauce on the pizza, throw the cheese on. It'll go to the left. Somebody's got to throw pepperoni on it, and to the right, if not. Okay, I got to tell you, after cleaning toilets, I thought, okay, I can do this. So I start humming along, and I start thinking I'm getting good at it, and I start speeding up the little conveyor belt, and I'm humming to myself, you know. And I'm a lot younger now, and so I'm a punk. And lady is watching me. Finally, she comes up and she goes, honey, baby, honey, you got to get that cheese all the way around that pizza real even, because if you don't, it ain't gonna be good show for my guests. This woman had never interfaced with a guest, and yet she intrinsically knew her role, and she intrinsically knew she wasn't just making pizza. She was part of a greater experience and was edified and continued to be motivated 19 years in. And this is because of the four things I'll talk about: story, language, actions, recognition, and that wheel that we used to use at Disney to keep people engaged in the story, in the narrative. And we would tell them, they're going to write letters about you much more often than they're going to write letters about meeting Mickey Mouse. 90% of the letters that we would get at Disney were about employees. They were about cast members, not about how much they loved the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride. They got those letters. Overwhelmingly, it was because I want to tell you about what somebody did for my kid. I need to tell you how our day was saved because my mom couldn't walk. And, you know, I just, you know, we all have those. Everybody's got those war stories at Disney, I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, you know, earlier you mentioned serving others. And of course, in preparation for this, I was watching some other interviews that you've done. And in one interview jumped out at me where you talked about the power of serving others and how it can transcend your work experience. Now at FPA, and you talked to a lot of planners, a lot of our members are going to say the same thing. We believe financial planning is a helping profession that is really rooted in serving others. So can you talk about that transformative power of serving others?
Okay. A bunch of things. First of all, often you're not going to know it's happening while it's going on because your face be on the task. So that's the first thing. The other thing I want to point out is that it's not just about exceeding the expectations of the guest on stage. It's about finding the best in the people that you work with and building strength there. As I said, it's impossible to inspire the best in someone and in someone else that you work with and not also get stronger simultaneously. People who are really good at coaching know this. They know that there's a mutual transference. And I'm going to tell you that I also work with folks in the medical industry. And they'll say to me about this concept you and I are talking about, well, you're telling me that service is transactional. Service. I just don't believe that service is transactional. To which I say, I don't care whether you believe it in or not. I don't have to believe in gravity. My feelings about gravity are completely inconsequential. If I jump out of a window, I will fall regardless of my feelings. The same thing, if I am bringing the best, changing someone's life, if helping them find their greatest priority, that's trans. I put a coin in and something comes out. I have offered up my ability, my skills, my engagement, and it is impossible then to assume that that was for nothing. It was, and also I would ask people in the financial planning industry to think of two things. One, look at where you are right now. Did you ever plan to be where you are right now? Or are you where you are right now as a culmination of offerings, of actions that made you stronger, that made you smarter, that made you make better choices? Are you not where you are that I talked about? And the other rough thing about the community of folks in finance, rarely do I meet anyone that has stopped today and thought, do you know, somebody brought home a baby today because of me. Do you realize that somebody is entering their new home today? Not a dwelling, but their home because of me. And go, okay, let me just for a second think. Somebody's alive right now. Somebody has medicine right now. Somebody's in right now, as corny as that sounds, because of these tasks that I rise to the occasion every day. You know what? And something else I'm going to talk about. I opened the Harry Potter worlds. I don't want to get into it too much, but I opened the wand experience. I got one in my hand. I keep one in the office. I didn't know about Harry Potter. I was not a Harry Potter expert, but Universal, not Disney, this scene in the movie that's replicated in the movie precisely, and it's the scene where the wand chooses the wizard. We're going to talk about this the meeting. I'll find that Potter nerd. There's a Potter nerd in the audience, and I'm going to find him.
There's going to be a few.
Yeah, and they're going to help me prove this point. Think about all the people that will never be thought of, considered, or thanked, from the writer of the book, the custodial person in the room, the actor in the room, the attendants, the person who casts the die, the person who makes the box, people that will never be thought of, who changed this from a stick to a $70 wand. Think about it. And every one of them had to bring their task to change this from a stick to a wand, including the expectation of the client. And this is when you'll know it's running at top speed. When your clients are approaching your employees and being the finest possible outcome. When they bring that to the show, the same way that Disney gets, it can be hot and ridiculously expensive. But they will approach a custodial person anticipating a quote unquote Disney experience, which changes their performance technique. So this is when you know that you have a service community and are doing.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure I'm honoring the time here. We've gone a few minutes over, but I want to thank you, Louie, for no. This has been a great conversation, and I mean, I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And I know that everyone who's going to attend,
great and gracious host.
I loved the conversation. I really did. I think people are going to get a lot out of your presentation at FP Retreat 2024. And I just want to encourage all of you who are joining us today to take a look at FP Retreat 2024 in Tucson, Arizona, May 6th through the 9th. The event's going to be held at the Lowe's Ventana Canyon Resort. It'll be your opportunity to explore uncharted territories and engage in conversations that truly count, like those that we just had with Louie. So if you're eager to be part of an innovative and forward-thinking community, this event is truly tailor-made for you. And if you register by January 29th, you'll be able to secure the lowest possible registration rate with special early bird pricing. So register at fparetreat.org to join Louie and our other amazing speakers for terrific educational sessions and networking. You're not going to want to miss it. And finally, just be sure to join me for another FPA Live conversation on January 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, when I chat with futurist Erica Orange, who will be delivering a powerful keynote at FPA Retreat 2024 as well. So thank you for joining me, everyone, and I hope you have a terrific new year.